Good morning, Year 5, and welcome to Lesson 8 of your Destination Reader Sessions. Remember, keywords are in red, questions for you to answer are in blue, and writing time is in green. Before we make a start, please check you have a copy of the story, a strategy prompt sheet, a pencil, and a piece of paper or your home learning book, and press play once you have all of these things. Coraline by Neil Gaiman. We're going to continue with strategy number 3, inference. I would like you to remind yourselves, what does inference mean, and why do good readers make inferences? Make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book, and press play once you are ready. Inference means to read between the lines. If you were making inferences, you were looking for clues in the text to help you understand more. Authors sometimes leave key information out, so that the reader wants to keep reading to find out more. Let's take a look at today's vocabulary. Dislocated, dislocated, which means to disturb the organization of something. Vermin, vermin, which refers to wild animals that are harmful to crops, or farm animals which carry a disease. Depression, depression, is a region of lower atmospheric pressure. Make sure you have a look out for these words as we read today. This week, I will continue to ask 1 and 2 mark questions. Make sure you look out for how many marks each question is worth. We're going to recap how to answer 1 mark and 2 mark questions. 1 mark questions need a short, snappy answer. Try and remind yourselves of what a 2 mark question might need. Well done. It needs a PE answer, point and evidence. Let's continue reading. We're on chapter 6 today, page 81. I will read and you will follow along, and we will stop at points to make inferences. Coraline was woken by the mid-morning sun full on her face. For a moment she felt utterly dislocated. She did not know where she was. She was not entirely sure who she was. It was astonishing just how much of what we are can be tied to the beds we wake up in the morning, and it is astonishing how fragile that can be. Sometimes Coraline would forget who she was while she was daydreaming, that she was exploring the Arctic or the Amazon rainforest or darkest Africa, and it was not until someone tapped her on the shoulder or said her name that Coraline would come back from a million miles away with a start, and all in a fraction of a second have to remember who she was and what her name was and that she was even there at all. Now there was sun on her face. She was Coraline Jones. Yes, and then the green and pinkness of the room she was in, and the rustling of a large painted paper butterfly as it fluttered and beat its way about the ceiling, told her where she had woken up. She climbed out of the bed. She could not wear her pajamas, dressing gown, and slippers during the day, she decided, even if it meant wearing the other Coraline's clothes. Was there another Coraline? No, she decided there wasn't. There was just her. We're going to stop and ask a question. Find and copy the sentence which suggests that Coraline is confused, for 1 mark. Say your answer out loud, and then make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book, and press play once you are ready to continue. Brilliant. The sentence is, was there another Coraline? No, she decided there wasn't. This sentence shows that Coraline is suggesting that there could be another one of her, but then when she thinks about it, she decides, no, there's not, and she decides to be firm. Well done if you got this answer correct. There were no proper clothes in the cupboard. They were more like dressing up clothes, or, she thought, the kind of clothes she would love to have hanging in her own wardrobe at home. There was a Raggedy Witch costume, a patched scarecrow costume, a future warrior costume with little digital lights on it that glittered and blinked, a slinky evening dress all covered in feathers, and mirrors. Finally, in a drawer she found a pair of black jeans that seemed to be made of velvet night, and a grey sweater the colour of thick smoke, with faint and tiny stars in the fabric which twinkled. She pulled on the jeans and the sweater. Then she put on a pair of bright orange boots she found at the bottom of the cupboard. She took her last apple out of the pocket of her dressing gown, and then from the same pocket the stone with the hole in it. She put the stone into the pocket of her jeans, and it was as if her head had cleared a little, as if she had come out of some sort of fog. She went into the kitchen, but it was deserted. Still, she was sure that there was someone in the flat. She walked down the hall until she reached her father's study and discovered that it was occupied. "Where's the other mother?" she asked the other father. He was sitting in the study at a desk which looked just like her father's, but he was not doing anything at all, not even reading gardening catalogues as her own father did when he was only pretending to be working. "Out," he told her, "fixing the doors. There are some vermin problems." He seemed pleased to have somebody to talk to. Let's stop again so that we can have a look at another question together. What does the other world tell us about Coraline and what she wishes for? For 2 marks. Say your answer out loud, and then make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book, and press play once you are ready. The part where Coraline goes into her other father's study, and he is not doing anything, tells me that Coraline wishes that her parents spent more time with her, because the other father also seemed pleased to have somebody to talk to, which does not reflect what we have seen of her real father. So I can tell that Coraline wishes that her real father spent more time with her, and that the fact that her other father seemed pleased to have somebody to talk to is emphasized. Well done if you got this correct. The rats, you mean? No, the rats are our friends. This is the other kind, big black fellow with his tail high. The cat, you mean? That's the one, said her other father. He looked less like her true father today. There was something slightly vague about his face, like bread dough that had begun to rise, smoothing out the bumps and cracks and depressions. Really, I mustn't talk to you when she's not here, he said, but don't you worry. She won't be gone often. I shall demonstrate our tender hospitality to you such that you will not even think about ever going back. He closed his mouth and folded his hands in his lap. So what am I to do now? Asked Coraline. The other father pointed to his lips. Silence. If you won't even talk to me, said Coraline, I am going exploring. No point, said the other father. There isn't anywhere but here. This is all she made. The house, the grounds, and the people in the house. She made it, and she waited. Then he looked embarrassed and put one finger to his lips again, as if he had just said too much. Coraline walked out of his study. She went into the drawing room, over to the old door, and she pulled it, rattled and shook it. No, it was locked fast, and the other mother had the key. She looked around the room. It was so familiar. That was what made it feel so truly strange. Everything was exactly the same as she remembered. There was all her grandmother's strange-smelling furniture. There was the painting of the bowl of fruit, a bunch of grapes, 2 plums, a peach, and an apple, hanging on the wall. There was the low wooden table with the lion's feet, and the empty fireplace which seemed to suck heat from the room. But there was something else, something she did not remember seeing before. A ball of glass up on the mantelpiece. She went over to the fireplace, went up on tiptoes and lifted it down. It was a snow globe with 2 little people in it. Coraline shook it and set the snow flying, white snow that glittered as it tumbled through the water. Then she put the snow globe back on the mantelpiece and carried on looking for her true parents and for a way out. She went out of the flat, past the flashing lights door behind which the other Mrs. Spink and Forcible performed their show forever, and set off into the woods. Where Coraline came from, once you were through the patch of the trees, you saw nothing but the meadow and the old tennis court. In this place the woods went on further, the trees becoming cruder and less tree-like the further you went. Pretty soon they seemed very approximate, like the idea of trees, a greyish-brownish trunk below, a greenish splodge of something that might have been leaves above. Coraline wondered if the other mother wasn't interested in trees, or if she just hadn't bothered with this bit properly, because nobody expected to come out this far. She kept walking, and then the mist began. It was not damp like a normal fog or mist, it was not cold, and it was not warm. It felt to Coraline like she was walking into nothing. I'm an explorer, thought Coraline to herself, and I need all the ways out of here that I can get, so I shall keep walking. The world she was walking through was a pale nothingness, like a blank sheet of paper, or an enormous empty white room. It had no temperature, no smell, no texture, and no taste. It certainly isn't mist, thought Coraline, although she did not know what it was. For a moment she wondered if she might have gone blind, but no, she could see herself plain as day. There was no ground beneath her feet, just a misty, milky whiteness. Let's stop again for our final question. How do you think Coraline is feeling? For 2 marks. Say your answer out loud, and then make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book, and press play once you are ready. Let's share my answer. I think that Coraline is feeling emotionless, because it says that the world she was walking through was a pale nothingness. I've used my main point. I've also included the word because to prove that I'm about to back up my main point with some evidence from the text. Well done if you've done the same. And what do you think you're doing? Said a shape to one side of her. It took a few moments for her eyes to focus on it properly. She thought it might be some kind of lion at first, some distance away from her, and then she thought it might be a mouse, close beside her, and then she knew what it was. And that's all we have time for today, Year 5. Tomorrow we will continue reading Coraline and we'll carry on making inferences. I'm really excited to find out what happens next in the rest of our chapter. On your piece of paper or in your home learning book, write anything else that you could infer from today's lesson. And remember that you can email your answers to the class mailbox.